Welcome back, boys and girls, to Light the Fuse, the Mission Impossible podcast.
Are you okay, Drew?
I feel like that was kind of a Carnival Barker-esque kind of.
Okay. Yeah, cool. I'm Charles. That's Drew.
Correct. If you're joining us for the first time, you'll probably be pretty confused, but this is how we sometimes open the show.
This is pretty much how it always goes.
Yeah.
We figured we would do a little revisiting this week.
Yeah, cutting out all the riffraff, and by riffraff I mean 2 other hours of absolutely solid gold entertainment that you can still listen to on our 200th episode, but cutting to the chase with our man, TC, Tom Cruise.
The man himself, Tom Cruise, we had on the show for our 200th episode. I will say that if you have not listened to our 200th episode, then I don't know what you're doing with your life, but you need to stop doing that, and you need to go back and listen to the 200th episode. If you have listened to it, this is just a fun visit down memory lane last year when we talked to Tom Cruise, and we'll have a little bit of a lead-in so you can hear us be very surprised by the arrival of Tom Cruise, because we were not expecting this at all. There was a little bit of hope, but then earlier in the interview, when we asked McCory directly, hey, I think you said to McCory that on the 100th episode, he was going to get Tom Cruise for us on the 200th. And then McCory said, well, he's at the U.S. Open. So, and then that's when all our hope died.
Right. Wimbledon. Was
it? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, Wimbledon. Of course. Wimbledon. Yeah. My bad.
Yeah. Our hopes died a cold death. And then we saw in the corner. Well, he said he's at Wimbledon with my wife.
Yes.
And so I was running the Zoom, and I saw in the corner Mrs. McHugh, and I said, oh my God.
Which is hilarious because there was no communication between McHugh and his wife, so she assumed that we wouldn't know that she was with Cruise. So that's how it plays out. It's very funny. I wanted to say also, after this happened, we got the Tom Cruise cake for the holidays as a holiday gift from Tom Cruise, which was the most amazing thing ever. As anybody who doesn't know about that every year he gives out cakes to a lot of people. We made the cake list. It's like bucket list for us. We made the cake list. So
unbelievable.
I wanted to say though, I finally finished the cake because I had frozen pieces of it and had been like once a month still eating a piece, and it was still just as good, maybe even better a couple of months ago. Like the second or third to last piece that I had after it was frozen was maybe the best one.
Honestly, I'm shocked because you have a notoriously, supersized sweet tooth. You gotta have a sweet.
Yes.
And you abstained. I love that.
I was savoring it. I wanted it to last. I wanted it to last as long as it was okay. It would be impossible to down that whole cake in like a week. It was just too much.
That's true.
So it was like I got to freeze a bunch of it.
I think we should, if we get it again this year, which no guarantees, obviously.
Right.
But if we do, we should have people over and share the cake. It'll be like gifting everyone with a little sprinkle of Tom Cruise magic.
Well, actually, I think you left early at my birthday party, but I did share a couple of very thin slices with a couple of friends.
Who got these pieces?
Well, one of them was my writing partner, Seth, and then the other one was another Seth, who we've had on the show, Seth Kleinberg from Filmograph.
Oh, a member of the franchise.
I gave him a little slice as well, and then another friend, Max, and that was it. That only gave out 3 very thin slices to these fine folks.
You're a saint, Charles. You're a saint.
I also wanted to just as a shameless bit of self-promotion, just say that Night Owls, my movie that I made a few years ago, is no longer on HBO Max, but it's now on Hulu with a Cinemax add-on. And I think it's actually shown on actual Cinemax TV a few times, which is cool. Kind of crazy when that happens. The TV is still a thing out there.
Do you think somebody watched it thinking it was some kind of sex?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Thriller.
A couple of times it played at like 11 p.m. or even 2 a.m. So there was somebody up late and they saw the little warning that was like, "Oh, there's sex in this." Yeah.
And then they were extremely disappointed.
They were like, "What? This is just like a character thing. This is dumb."
Maybe they were enriched for the experience though. And,
Maybe.
Yeah.
And then I think it's still also on Tubi and Pluto TV. for free on those ones as well. So it's still around. If anybody hasn't seen Night Owls, I highly recommend it. Do you have any shameless self-promotion you want to?
I don't have any self. I'm trying to think. I don't think so.
You've written a lot of great articles, things, interviews. I mean, you got something?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always writing things. You can go read that stuff at the Wrap if you'd like. If not, I understand. You're busy. You got a lot of stuff to do. You have a 2-hour movie to watch or 90-minute movie to watch on Charles's recommendation. I get it.
They're not too busy to read. If you got some great stuff in the works. I guess I can't say, but yes. I've heard of some articles that you're working on that sound pretty awesome.
Yes. So good things.
Follow Drew on Twitter because that's where you will find his articles get posted usually there.
That's probably true. Although I'm terrible at sharing my articles. So
I know you are. I don't know about some of the things. Sometimes I'll come across an article and I'll be like, wow, this is really good. And then I'm like, oh, who wrote this? And then I see that it's you. And I'm like, of course it was Drew.
I like to keep it mysterious. But you know what I don't like to keep mysterious, Charles?
Your shout outs?
Yes, of course. Got to do my shout outs right now. This episode is brought to you by Jeremy Dillon and My Favorite Album, his amazing podcast. Also brought to you by John B., Elvis Ripley, and Suchet. And I want to remind people to come back next week because we will have a breakdown of whatever it is that is shown, if there's anything that is shown at CinemaCon. We will be there.
Yes.
We will be in the room where it happened, to quote Hamilton.
It's possible that we might go to CinemaCon and they're just going to show Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and other stuff like that.
We'll still do an episode about that. Sure.
We'll do an episode about that.
Yeah.
But hopefully there's something Mission Impossible related. I mean, there's got to be.
There's got to be, and we will bring it to you ASAP. That'll be a little bit early. We're going to try to get it out next Thursday. So, yeah. Anything else, Charles, before we get into this?
No, just enjoy the amazingness of Tom Cruise.
What I love about what we've come to do in our process, and Eddie can speak to this as well, when we reach for it, when we try to achieve something, we tend not to get there, or we get there and it's kind of like not what we wanted. When we just put it out there, when we just say, this is the feeling we want to achieve, and don't chase after it, just put it out there and aspire to it, it tends to become a reality, and become a reality in a way that's far more organic and less contrived. And these two movies, combined with the pandemic really, and the disruptiveness of the pandemic, all tend to come together to achieving things you want. Like, I don't know, maybe getting Tom Cruise to come on your podcast.
What?
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Heather.
Hi.
That's my wife, Heather, who's been at Wimbledon. Hi, hon.
Oh, hi. What's going on over there?
Oh, we're just recording our 200th episode, bothering your husband for the 900th time.
And we're talking to Charles and Drew, and they were lamenting that on the 100th episode, they had been asking if I could get Tom to come on for the 200th episode.
Oh, did you have any luck reaching him?
They know that you're at Wimbledon with Tom.
Oh.
Hey guys, how are you?
Oh my God! Wow!
What?
Oh my word!
What is happening?
Tom Cruise, how are you?
I'm great, man. How are you guys?
Good. Did you have any idea this podcast existed before 5 minutes ago?
Yes, and thank you guys. Thank you so much. Really, I love it.
Oh my God,
I love it. What you guys do, and we really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun.
Oh well, we do it all for you. And to a slightly lesser degree, Macquarie. So, yeah.
But I have to tell you, we do it all for you. That's what I want you to know. We do it for you.
Well, mission accomplished on that front. How is everything going? Give us an update here.
It's going really well. Very excited about the next two missions. And we're filming kind of both of them right now at the same time. It's been quite an adventure, as it has been, and we're just enjoying it. Got a great cast. It's obviously, I know McHugh's told you, like, we've taken the franchise to a place that we always wanted to earn, on the kind of scale and emotion and character and where it's evolved to. So we're really excited about it. Really excited.
Wow.
Still in the thick of it, but very excited. It's been we had shot a great scene this past week with this cast. That's, you just look at them, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so talented.
Well, speaking
We
of
And I'm
had,
just interested in the characters they're creating.
we had Nick Offerman and Mark Gatiss on earlier, and Tarzan crashed with he's at Jay's wedding with Glenn and Danny. So we had a crossover episode of Light the Fuselage.
Who's at Jay's wedding? Is it Jay, Glenn, and Danny there? Or what about Monica and Miles? Were they there?
I think they are there. I just know that Tarzan he was driving in with Glenn and Danny when we called. So Charles and Drew are very, very patient in our excessively evasive answers to questions.
Speaking of thick, Tom, your hair looks great in this new one, and we're obsessed. We're obsessed with the length, and we.
Let me tell you something. Drew cannot. It's his go-to question to every guest on this podcast. What do you think of Tom's hair?
Yes. We asked people to rank your haircuts from the Mission Impossible movies. So we're gonna have to ask you to do the same.
I know. I feel the pressure. I like to leave that to you guys. And luckily, there's moments where when we finished our first phase of MI7, where it shut down and allowed me to just grow my hair, and then I showed up, and we were all like, "Oh, this kind of works for 8." And so we're just keeping it. We're going with it.
It's funny. We were all. It's first of all, I think this is. I'm gonna give you my ranking. I think it's the coolest Tom's hair has looked in any Mission Impossible movie.
Well, in that CinemaCon footage, woo, it was looking great. Let me tell you. And the plane blowing in the wind, woo.
Yeah,
that plane. That was fun. That was fun. That plane is fun, guys.
Yeah, they just so you are aware, they did that, I think, like 12 times over 3 days to get that exact take right. Yeah.
That was
we were filming all day.
Eddie Hamilton was there. Eddie Hamilton was actually directing that shot. Yep. He was in the heli.
Yes, he was in the helicopter.
Wow.
We shot it one way, then we went back and looked at it. We're like, that didn't work. So we were shooting all day, and then when the light wasn't good for us for the film, we kind of rigged that so we could go and shoot that in the afternoon for the studio. We said, look, we'll come up with these ideas. So to figure out the
drive home. That was our drive home every day.
Yes, that was our drive home.
What about that photo that McHugh shared on social media, Tom, of you falling out of a plane?
It looked like I was holding on to it. I can't give too much away because I'm not allowed to give too much away. Just because, we're making it. So.
You see how they phrase the questions, Tom. You have to be very, very careful.
They're very skilled, and I'm going to have to pay very attention to how I respond, knowing that we have next summer missions coming out, and the following summer, another mission, I think it was McHugh was like, hey, let's go. We're going to go make another mission. And McHugh said, let's make 2. I was like, oh, my gosh. Okay. Well, that sounds like an adventure. Let's do that. And then the whole world went crazy. And now we've been working on these films on missions we edited Top Gun, guys, and then working on these 2 missions for, guys, how many years? 4 years? 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on Top Gun, by the way, because
thank you.
We love it so much. Charles has seen it 4 times. I've seen it 3 times. So
that's awesome, guys. Thank you so much. It was so nice to see people back in the theaters, guys. I mean, I held it for, that time period, and it's wonderful that audiences really came out. And now look at the rest of the summer. I'm happy for theaters. I'm happy for you guys who just want to deliver. There's a little bit of pressure on that one. Took 36 years to figure it out, but, luckily, right, guys?
While we have you here, I have to ask you about... There have been previous incarnations of Mission Impossible movies that didn't happen. And I wanted to know, maybe you could tell me, like, as I list a couple of these ones, what would have been great about this? Like, so David Fincher was going to do Mission Impossible 3.
Well, we didn't move forward because they just, like any movie, he's so talented. It was just been very different. Like any movie, I was learning. It was the first film I ever produced. Let me take you back, which is, I'm 18 years old. I make taps. I'm basically first movie set I've ever been on. I'm studying kind of every department. We had Owen Roisman, you've got Harold Becker, Stanley Jaffe, who just produced Kramer versus Kramer, and Harold Becker. I'm working with George C. Scott, Penn, Hutton, all these guys that very skilled in every area. Great experience. And Sherry Lansing was at Fox at that point. So they all knew kind of my passion for storytelling and cinema. And then as years went on, I just thought, if I can do this the rest of my life, I'd be so happy. And I was working on being competent and how can I develop and learn this skill? And I was always evaluating, how are movies made and why do they work? Why does one film work with the elements involved and then it doesn't work with certain elements involved? And I started to really kind of break down structure of drama and comedy. And I would go I hired CAA at that time, they're a young agency, and I would go and I hired them because they had like Hoffman and Newman and Scorsese, and I would go just have lists, and Sidney Pollack, and I would have lists, and I'd studied all their films, and I'd go have meetings with them. Okay. But Sherry Lansing and Stanley Jaffe, and then they went on to produce Fatal Attraction. And Sherry Lansing was and is this really amazing woman, always very gracious, always very encouraging. And when I went over to Paramount, Stanley Jaffe was running Paramount at that point, and then Sherry Lansing came in, and I was constantly being asked to produce things or direct things. I was like, I'm just developing myself. So when I did Top Gun, I had in my contract, I was in every meeting. I was in every producer meeting, and Simpson Bruckheimer were very gracious with me and really involved me in every aspect of the filmmaking and the story structure. And it's when I started to be able to sit in marketing meetings and really understand in terms of the responsibility of the studio. And then I was kind of started branching out into distribution and meeting them, and then traveling around the world, kind of understand what kind of movies that people want to see. So then we kind of come up to Sherry Lansing and Stanley Jaffe, and they're like, please come. And I was like, I'm ready to produce a movie. And I went to them, and it was a TV series. And I actually went and I said, I want to produce a movie that I feel is going to be that I'm interested in. And I feel like there's a certain art form in terms of what I want to push and how we're going to do it with suspense and, different kinds of performance. And I want to travel the world and make movies all over the whole world. So Sherry said, okay, it was a TV series, and kind of people thought, what is he thinking? A TV series? Why is he doing that? Okay. And it was really, my friends were like, what are you doing? A TV series? I thought, they don't know. I grew up, I loved the music and kind of the potential. I thought it would be very cinematic. And I actually went to Sidney Pollack first. And I asked him, he was a lifelong friend of mine. I've known him since I was 18. I met him and spent a lot of time with him when he was editing Tootsie. And I would just go and ask him about cinema, and I would interview him on cinema and choices. And then, I'd worked with him in the firm, and he was like, I don't know. I don't know how to make a movie like that. I was like, yes, you do. 3 Days of the Condor. And if you look at the firm, like some of his sequences were very naturalistic. There's just really, he understood tension and language and geography and how to shoot these things. And he didn't feel like it was in his wheelhouse. And so I kind of went back to studying different filmmakers, and I was looking at De Palma, his work. And De Palma had just done Bonfires of Vanities. And it was interesting because I went over to Spielberg's house, and I was having dinner with Steven, and De Palma was there. And he and I just started talking, and I just went back and I just again looked at all of his films. I said, no, this is what he understood about just his composition. He understood the suspense. He had a great style. So I offered him the movie in the studio at that time because, there was just different elements where it was like he had come off Bonfires and they didn't want him. And I just so I had a meeting. I set up a meeting with Sherry, and I said, look, you got to trust me. And she did. And we went off, and De Palma and I developed the film for almost 2 years. And we constantly writing. The whole process of making these movies was finding these locations, developing these sequences, building character within it, and what's the story. So that's a long-winded thing, and I was finding my footing with how to make these, because I never was interested in making sequels. They wanted to make sequel to Top Gun before it was released. And I'm like, I'm not And I don't make movies for that. I make movies because I want to learn, and I think of the audience. I want to do that. And I also was developing my own skill as a storyteller and as an actor. So with Mission, I was like, if this works, this could be interesting to be able to travel the world, which is my goal, and not just be a tourist, but I want to work in that culture with people and to have a story and celebrate the geography of that area. So Mission Impossible, you had Amadeus that shot in Prague, and Mission Impossible at the time was the first big film to go into Prague. The wall had come down. I was like, let's go there. In England, I wanted to shoot, and we based in England. And then it just kind of developed on from there in years. And now I'm working, we did it with John Woo, which is someone I admired his films, and to see like how would that feel within Mission? Like we were finding our footing. And then I kind of realized that you have this wonderful communication with an audience, this process with the character and the investment that they have in the character and the style as I was kind of developing it. And then JJ, I was spending time with JJ. I actually offered him to write War of the Worlds. That's where I first met him. And he was a television producer, and they'd worked on an early version of Superman. And he just had a great sense of story, and he was doing Alias, and he was very facile at being able to discuss structure, and he understood the foundation of what Mission is. Because a lot of people, and I've worked with a lot of writers, different directors on it, that never really grasp what works about the franchise. McHugh understood most definitely not only that franchise, but just a basis of storytelling and a wide range of storytelling. He understands that with structure and tension, with suspense in a structure, you can have comedy, you can have drama. And so that's where we went. I don't know what, that's a long-winded answer to the question of what these other filmmakers are like. It just wasn't something that was, I don't know what it would have been. It wasn't kind of embracing what Mission is and wanting to embrace it in a way that you got it, how to use the theme music and how to entertain that audience with them in a way that, and I admire them. I'd love to work with them and other things, but you just go, this is something that is, having lived with it and understanding that communication with the audience, that I want to deliver on those expectations for an audience. And I'm developing my own skills as a producer, as an artist, and having that physicality to be able to bring to the screen. That's more emotional and character. Those are the things that we were always going. So I don't know what those films would have been like, really.
We did a whole episode on the Oliver Stone one where you would have been plugged into an evil computer. So I think that was probably the right choice for Mission.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know. I think he's just enormously talented. It was just stuff that you just go, it's just like anything. You're working with different writers and artists, and you're going, what is this? And as it's developing, where do we want to take it in the future? And, I've loved my working with McHugh. He and I met on Valkyrie, and it's just been exceptional experience working with him. It's just an absolute, like, you read his scripts, like his ability, his sense of storytelling and logic and sense of personal adventure and willingness to never give up and explore character and story under tremendous amount of pressure that he loves, and he actually thrives on it. And we've been through, I could do about 20 podcasts talking about Chris McQuarrie and his, that sometimes bandied about word of someone who's brilliant and genius. And that's what I say about McHugh. And also just knows how to doesn't worry about when things go wrong. We have a saying, it's like pressure's a privilege, and we look at anything where it's not going the way we think it's going to go as an opportunity to take it in a way that's going to be even more exciting. And that's what you start feeling with the Mission movies, because on any film, these are what's exciting about making them is in every way, movies are tough to make just physically anyway. Okay. Now you're creating this kind of action motion. I love musicals and motion and act. And you look at how in a musical you can create such emotion so quickly, and you can do that with action and behavior. So he understands that and how to utilize that camera and that storytelling and build that action in a way that will thrill an audience and put them on the edge of their seat. And those are the things that we're looking for. You want that lightning in a bottle. But these films are so challenging to produce, so challenging to physically to make, for myself, for the crew, for everyone. And when it works out, it's beautiful. Like seeing, that's why I'm saying, like, when we're making movies, we're thinking about you and we're thinking about the audience, and we're trying to use every bit of our skills to really entertain you. And that's like, every day I'm like, I just want to make sure that I've given it my all, and it's a lot of fun.
Hence the picture of Tom hanging off of an airplane.
that was hence that, and it's just so fun.
Thank you.
And wild.
It was very kind what you said, Tom.
No, it's true, McHugh. Really.
I feel the same way.
It's true. We've made a wide range of films. Every film that I've worked on the past 15 years, McHugh has had a hand in, and it's kind of like this dialogue that we have, not just about our film, but about cinema, where we basically live together. Every day we go to work together, we come home together, our families are together. And it's this long dialogue about cinema and storytelling, not just on our film, but others. And it's very exciting. And I feel quite fortunate. And you too, Eddie, you're a great editor, Eddie. I'm very impressed.
Thank you very much, Tom. But it's, McHugh is the reason these movies are as good as they are. And it is a team effort. And it's a joy to collaborate with Chris and Tom, because they just make great movies, and to be part of the process of that is such a privilege. And listen, I pinch myself every day going to work. I can't believe I'm getting to do what I do. It is such a privilege, and we're on a 4-year odyssey to make these 2 movies.
Yes.
We're 2 years in, and we've got 2 years to go, and I just can't wait to listen, I will tell you, McHugh is directing the hell out of these movies. They are mouth-wateringly good.
Yeah.
And my word, his composition and his
beautiful,
the visual storytelling is just like on another level. It is world class.
Yep.
And it's a pleasure just to watch the dailies, like the compositions. I mean, it's just so good. It's so good. The casting, the writing, it's like you're just working at the best that human beings can create with the resources that are available today. It really is. And I'm not exaggerating. It's insane to be part of this and to be invited into this process. It's a huge privilege.
Sorry, Eddie, you were frozen just now. Can you say all that again?
Yeah.
This is, as you can imagine, extremely uncomfortable for me to listen to. So.
It's all true. It's totally true.
And also the pressure that's a privilege.
Well, we
really
feel the
is.
same way, and we have spent much of this podcast talking about you, Tom, and it's funny you're saying it, because we went on a whole thing about what a privilege it is to make these movies, and how our relationship is one long conversation about movies interrupted by production.
Yes.
And it is true. It is true. Like when we were in Africa, every morning was breakfast, talking not just about our movie and what we were doing, but talking about movies and what movies mean, and obviously everything that the business was going through over the course of the making of part one of this movie. I mean, the business was in as critical a place as I certainly in my lifetime, if not in its very long history. And that was something we took very, very seriously, that we look at this as something that is not just, it's not just something we do, it's something that a lot of people depend on, and not just for their entertainment, but a lot of people for their livelihood, things like that. We take it very, very seriously as something that you give into, not something you take from. It's not about.
Yeah, and you look at, in the last 5 weeks or 6 weeks, there's been 4 movies that have opened to over $100 million in the US.
That's how beautiful
that's
is that?
Never happened. I mean, it's insane.
Yes.
It's amazing.
I'm so happy
it's like,
for everyone.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for everyone. I'm just like, guys, it's lovely. It's lovely for audiences, for the theaters, for the studios.
Yeah.
You know, we're all friends and family, and it's just wonderful.
And of course, everybody making it what it's turned into over several decades. It's turned into a competition, and you know what film is going to be number one, and is this film going to beat that film? And we were just so thrilled when 4 films came out.
I know.
A couple of weeks of each other, and all of them made about the same amount of money on the same weekend. It was like, I don't care where we rank in that. I care that the 4 movies can come out with that kind of variety. And because look, it's not to take away anything from the movies that are predominantly successful. They're a kind of movie that's for an audience, and we make movies for the audience. We want everybody to come, as many people to come, and for
we've always felt that way though, McHugh, because I've never felt the competition. We've always felt that way. I want to see a great movie, and I want to see successful movies, and the more successful they are, the more studios are going to make more. And you know, these artists, we spend a lot of time just working to educate the people around, and it's not a competition. I just don't, you know, it's just not it. I'm really like everyone. It's like, I love seeing movies in the theater. I want to see people, you know, be successful. And so it's a wonderful time right now.
Yeah. Especially in contrast to what it was just, you know,
oh my God,
this time last year.
Oh my gosh.
Do you feel validated by holding on to the movie for so long? I mean, I'm assuming the pressure to just put it out on Paramount Plus was immense, but you know, you stuck to your guns, and this is what happened.
Here's a wonderful thing. Everyone is happy. That's what I want.
Yeah.
It literally, I want everyone to be happy. When I'm making a film, we're making a movie together. Always my career is like, I want everyone to be happy, and to be my cast, everyone to have, you know, look, I work hard and I expect a lot, but I really want everyone to come out of it better than before. So it's just a great thing of seeing how happy audiences are, seeing how happy the studio and everyone in it, and that also worked tremendously hard in the release of it. And I look at it like they have families. Everyone's like, it needs to work. And I understand there's a business aspect to this. And there's many artists, like I spend time actually educating other artists on this to get a broader perspective of what they're doing and how the things that they do can affect so many other people's lives. And to have them recognize that, so that when we're talking about all the way down to the person that's serving popcorn in those theaters, you know, when I walk into a theater, I grew up going to movies. It's always like, you know, you look at everyone in that regard. So it's more important than kind of validation. It's just like, I'm just happy. You know, I'm just happy. I like see everyone win. It's just wonderful. And everybody, everyone's having a wonderful summer, and all the studios, I'm telling you, they're happy. You know, that's what they want.
It's pretty amazing. Charles, I can see you wanting to jump in. Go ahead.
Hey, Charles.
Well, Drew's gonna hate this. I have a lightning round thing I want to do with Tom. If you'll indulge me for a second.
Sure.
I want to list, so the list of directors you've worked with is absolutely insane. I want to list some of the directors you've worked with, and I want you to use one word to describe either the director or what the experience was like working with them.
That's hard now, man.
This is a bit. This is becoming a bit.
This is a bit.
Yeah.
I know, but I can't do one word. But try, and I'll see if I can do it.
Okay. You can do a few words. Just a quick phrase.
I'll do a few words.
Okay. Martin Scorsese.
Just exceptional.
Steven Spielberg.
Exceptional.
Stanley Kubrick.
Exceptional.
Francis Ford Coppola.
Exceptional.
Ridley Scott.
Exceptional.
Tony Scott.
Now, let me tell you something. I just never forget being on a movie set with Ridley and really seeing how he would light that set in London, and seeing then going to the rushes and seeing it on film, what he did with light and painting it and composition versus what you'd see to the eye or what I'd look through the lens. as I said, exceptional. Same with Tony, exceptional.
Tony, this is exceptional. Okay.
Yep.
Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yep, exceptional.
Michael Mann.
What's that?
Michael Mann.
Exceptional.
I see
Sidney
a theme.
Pollock.
I see a theme developing.
What
Yeah,
if he
Yeah, I
said
know.
what if Charles says McQuarrie and Cruise says meh, you know?
Exceptional.
Okay.
Exceptional.
Curtis Hanson.
No, I don't mean to be kind of like that. It's just a very hard thing when you, with one word, to say what we spent. You know, some of these people I've known my whole life. We spent years working on projects together, and the common theme is they're each very unique, very different styles of the points of view of what they see in life and how that's reflected in their films. Their lens choice, you know, you see their, you know, the things that I was able as a young actor, you know, I was always, and I'm always on set, very curious to be able to work with these people. And I was very specific about what I did and why I did it. I didn't just kind of do things. So I'd met Scorsese before, you know, I'd met a lot of these directors before, and I knew their work. And to be able to see and develop these scripts, I don't know, it's interesting. Everyone's like, well, you've got a script, you go do it. Movies aren't made that way. And that's not how I learned how to make movies. It's always been a process, and it's always something that, as much as we would like to get it all on the page and then go shoot and everyone knows exactly what we're doing, that's not the way movies are made. And it's because it's a living thing that you have to explore and find, and things go wrong and things go well. And so you have to chase that kind of lightning, and to develop an ability and a skill to have the confidence to do that. So working where Ridley was a young filmmaker at that point, you know, he had done Alien, yes, he'd done Blade Runner, and he'd done The Duelist. And he was an amazing, obviously, commercial director. And this was the biggest film that he made coming off of Blade Runner, and just seeing how he's developed, you know, and seeing the power of his art. In the same way, to be there as a young actor on the set with Scorsese and Newman, and hearing the stories, not just gossip about it, but hearing how they made their films, what interested them, you know, seeing how Scorsese took me through during the rehearsals, how he needed to create a different visual style for every pool game so that you had a progression, and that through motion and what he did with the camera to reveal character. Like you see when I shoot pool the first time, the break that I had, you know, on that. And just that kind of experience of creating a character with them, that for me, I always felt like I could create a character. I was interested in the movie, and then I always had this instinct to be able to how I can create a character. And I would just kind of bring these characters to the directors, and, you know, Vincent t-shirt and the big hair, you know what I mean, for Color of Money. And I came with that, I trained with nunchucks. So I just used I'd show Marty, you know, what I do with the pool cue, to just, cause he wanted that kind of thing. It was a fun thing to play against, you know, understanding what I can do as a supporting character versus the main protagonist. It's a different responsibility of storytelling in cinema and a movie. And so I was able to have that kind of freedom. And coming off of Maverick, that lead protagonist, where I'm really responsible for the narrative all the way through. It's just a different skill set doing that versus being a supporting character, you know.
That was an interesting thing I heard you say, which I never really thought of. You were talking about that very thing, that it's a different responsibility, so and a lot of roles that people talk about, you know, where Tom, you know, a role in Magnolia, Frank T.J. Mackey in Magnolia, that's a different thing than if that was a leading man. Les Grossman, and what you could do as a Les Grossman. When people are saying, hey, make a Les Grossman movie, it's a very different movie if suddenly it's Les Grossman's movie. And I never really thought of it in that way, in terms of the notion of responsibility and the notion of what a protagonist is, and how in Maverick you're talking about creating a character and creating a story around that character, and how a lot of big movies that come out now are not really engineered around a protagonist. they're engineered around groups and teams and families of friends, and and it's the concept of the protagonist, the classic protagonist, is one that seems strangely, it's like a lost art. It's very unusual.
Yeah, it's you and I always talk a lot about that structurally. How do you, when you look at Jerry Maguire, you look at what you did with Top Gun, writing Maverick, McHugh, that we spent a lot of time going, and also like with Ethan, how pulling that in where you have McHugh's like me, we love that cast. That's, when you look at these movies, it's like, I started out Taps or Risky Business. There's everywhere you look, I'm interested in every character. But you have that main line that is a communication with the audience that they're tracking off that emotionally. And it's like structurally, it's a different kind of thing. And with Ethan, we're constantly going, how do we build that roller coaster kind of emotion for that character? And as it's developed, and we've kind of, I think, gotten better and better at it, from Edge of Tomorrow and just over the years, when you're looking at the kind of action, when you look at the bar scene in Top Gun, and I think that writing and that scene, McHugh, is so key, because it's, we talk about it, it's like haiku. You got to understand these characters immediately, and you're creating that affinity with the audience for these characters and understanding the world. And it's so efficient. Just like the opera scene, that you created in Rogue.
I consider the bar to be as complex in its own way as the opera.
It's so deceiving. Everyone looks at it, the amount of time and combing through and discussing it and finding the shots and looking at, we had a beautiful set and where to move miles, and it's like the scene that we're shooting this past week. We can't really talk about it now, and we'll talk about it further a couple of years, but you'll see, how do you have a scene where in the middle you feel where these characters have lived before without it being explicit, but you feel them in there, like the levels of conflict, responsibilities, pressures within 1 minute. And you have to tell that story and then bring the pressure down on the protagonist and have it be something where the movie doesn't stop. Because I remember looking at a film, and Ordinary People is a very interesting movie for me, because it's changed me, because I looked at it, I'm going, I am leaning into Ordinary People. And then you see other dramas with great performances, but I'm not leaning in. And I realized from, others probably knew it forever, but I just went, oh my gosh, there was a structure to the film that was a mystery, a thriller. And it kept me leaning in and allowed me that emotional investment with these characters in a way that if I didn't have that kind of tension, it didn't pull me in quite as much. And it was a different kind of experience. And I felt one that was less engaging. So when you look at a Mission, or you look at a Suspense, or you look at a Tootsie, let's say, even, you look at Some Like It Hot, you look at Harold Lloyd, Charlie Chaplin, there's a tension that's going on. The General, okay?
Oh, Tootsie is a total suspense film.
Exactly. And it allows tremendous humor. And you're leaning and you're paying attention to it. But those are the things that I felt when I saw McHugh's work and I read his work. It's like, that's there. So we have this scene with a large cast, and how do you hold them there? And how do you bring all this in where it's not information, but it's character progression and a world progression where, this is the part of film where we're seeing a whole nother world. And that's really fun figuring that out, but you have to be willing to work at it. Like it's not a quick answer. You can't just write that down and do it. You have to explore. You have to cast them correctly. Then you have to find a way to really set them up in a way where that happens. It's like
serve them,
and you got to serve them, and you've got to keep working it and working it and working it. And it takes patience. It takes discipline. It takes a lot of care, and you have to be relentless about it. Otherwise, you're not going to have that kind of crackle for the audience that it takes. And it's got to happen in a way where you see it and it's effortless. The amount of time we all spent on the music, just the music alone in Top Gun in that bar. I mean, and every frame going through it, so that, and you just want it to feel like the breeze of coming in and the movie, and it's just effortless. You want everything to just, the audience isn't thinking about it. So that comes from just working and working and working.
You were very good about that. There's a cue in Top Gun. There's music playing on the jukebox that's buried in the bar scene. And we've been watching this scene forever. And Tom noticed that this one piece of music was playing on the cut to the pool table where Hangman is playing. And he said, if we just start the song earlier, it's Penny changing the mood in the scene instead of the pilots changing the mood. You're on Penny when the mood shifts and not the pilots. And it was the same thing you did actually when the first cut of Rogue Nation, the audience, you guys, I think we talked about this, the audience in the first test was saying it felt like the movie had 5 endings. And the response to those notes was, well, you got to cut out some of the business at the end. And Tom said, no, just listen to the music. That every scene with the temp score, it's da-da, and it feels like the movie's over. And he said to Joe Kramer, he goes, just write a 20-minute piece that plays through the entire last 2 reels like it's one sequence. And the score shot up and all the notes went away. It's what Tom does, which is so incredible, is he's feeling the movie as much as he is watching it. He's looking at the emotional effect that it's honestly creating. And it's another interesting thing you said to me, Tom, just very recently, we were talking about the difference between actors, directors, writers who can be the audience as well as whatever job it is they're doing, an editor, anybody who can watch the film, but also sit in the audience and watch the movie as a representative of the audience. And that's something I see you do quite, it's remarkable. Well, and it's always the same 2 words. I'll write a scene. I'll have worked on this scene all night long. And it's like, I crushed this one. This is going to be awesome. And I give it to Tom and he reads it. There's the ones where he's just like, it's awesome. I love it. And then there's a pause and he goes, it's interesting.
No. Sorry.
I know. I was like, oh my God, where is it? And I cannot see it. It's in panic. I was like, what do you mean it's interesting? You're out of your mind. It's awesome. It's not interesting. And he's like, I'm just not connected to. I was like, what do you mean? The whole scene is about this thing. And it's not about what the scene is about. It's truly about how the scene feels. And what we did in this scene we've been talking about, it's all exposition, and I can't stand exposition. But sometimes it's necessary. You got to find a way to make it emotional. It's how do you present all of the same information in a way that the audience never has to listen to a word of it to understand all of it. If they happen to hear it, great. Or if they happen to listen to it on the 3rd or 4th time they watch it, how do you feel the scene to understand it? That's really what you're great at, is just you're this raw nerve when you're watching that stuff. I've never seen anybody be more honest about something you created, to be able to look at it and just go, yeah, I know what I meant, but this is actually what I'm feeling from it. And that gives everybody around you permission to react to it and to say, and I think that's why we work really well together, is I'll look at it and just go, yeah, it doesn't really matter, because it's never it's not about what I want. It's not really about what I meant the scene to be or something I'd love to put in a movie, but we just look at stuff and say, here's what it feels like. Do we want to keep going in that direction, or do we want to try to get what we were after? There's a character enters the movie. We shot this character's entrance and loved it. And then we go home and come in the next morning and go, I was thinking about it. And if we just make this one little change to their entrance, it'll feel like this. And we shot this entrance every morning when we because when we came in and it was a little different. And then we said, oh, you know what? We changed the whole scene again and realized the entrances we shot didn't work. And we need to do it one more time where you don't do this little bit of behavior. And we went back to an earlier take and we had done that. So we created bits for ourselves. We found this scene and we found these feelings. And that's really the fun of it, is it's a living, breathing, growing thing in an action movie, a quote unquote action movie. Why does that stuff have to be limited to melodrama and character dramas and awards movies? It's like, to me, there's no difference. It's not. I don't really.
A movie's a movie. A story's a story. And thank you for what you said, McHugh. Thank you.
That's very true.
I think that's why we work so well together, because we are serving the audience. And also, you got to constantly pop yourself out to go, okay, be willing to say I'm lost, and be willing to go, okay, let's just let it happen and we're going to find it together.
Yeah.
And just keep communicating, and we just keep confronting it, and we're going to figure it out somehow. And that's what we do. It's like, also, like, did you ever tell them about the Benji scene in Rogue Nation? Where you shot it? It was like, you said, I figured the scene out, and then you wrote the whole scene. It was just wrote the whole monologue at the end of Rogue, the restaurant scene,
the bomb Rogue. Did we talk about that, guys? When we talked about Rogue, we must have.
I don't know if we did, actually. So please.
Well, I know the story about the note cards, right? Like Simon Pegg was holding note cards for you to read.
Oh yeah, because we wrote the whole scene. We had 4 days to shoot it, and this is Benji sitting at the table with the bomb strapped to his chest. We knew stuff in the scene, but we didn't really know. Is that me glitching?
I think it's Tom.
Okay.
I think we might have lost.
He's in a car.
Yeah, you're glitching.
It's Heather's phone.
Oh, there you go.
We can hear you now.
Okay.
Let me just tell you one thing. Really got to make McHugh, when he knows how to write something, like when he feels it like an actor, it's very interesting. Like when he feels it like an actor, he wrote the scene, and like with Bill Paxton and everything, you wrote that in like a day. That whole sequence, that structure just fell right into place. And it's so fun because we'd been working. We're under a lot of pressure. We couldn't figure out the end. And we knew this location. We walked around, was like, build a restaurant here, do this. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And then remember you said, I know the scene. And you pitched it to me. Like, I just don't have time to write it. You wrote it that morning on your way to work, on his way to work. And you're like, oh my God, I read it. I was like, this is awesome. I can't react.
Of course, this is happening while he's telling you a great story about me.
I know you.
Oh no!
I know you guys have to get back to
him.
work. So, oh yeah, he's gone. So
Disconnected. I'm sure he will not want it to just end it that way. But yes, we do have to actually get to a 6:30 dinner.
Okay, go to dinner. Oh wait, here he comes back. Hold on, we'll have him say goodbye.
Hi guys, we're back.
Hey guys, we're going to get cut off. I just want to say thank you guys for everything.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
everything.
very much.
Thank you for everything.
Seriously.
Such a pleasure, guys. Thank you.
And Tom, thank you for the most comprehensive 10-minute interview I think I've ever.
Yeah.
I wonder why you liked it so much, McQuarrie.
Yeah.
You guys go get them.
All right, brother.
All
I'll see you
right,
in a
bye,
bit.
guys. Enjoy your dinner, and I'm sure we'll all talk very soon.
Thank you, guys. Look forward to it.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
And we're back. I love. So let me also give more context as to how Charles had a whole bit ready to go. So we have a document called Cruise Questions. We'd been working on it for a while. I had sort of forgotten about it, and also I was kind of trying to keep an eye on the Zoom and my recording and everything. Charles immediately goes into that doc. He starts off on this bit, and you know, on one hand, it ultimately, I don't know if it worked completely, but on the other hand, it got us
great anecdotes from movies that we never hear him talk about. So
Yeah.
I think it was
So I think it worked.
ultimately a win. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. But
It was also hilarious too. I mean, he's so.
It is.
I mean, it was so funny too.
yes, but yeah, I mean, so people have talked to me about, oh, I've never heard him talk about Legend or whatever, or Color of Money, and so I was really excited to hear those anecdotes. And
We got to get him to talk about Color of Night at some point. That's what we got to talk.
yeah,
about.
do you think he has thoughts on Color of
Do you
Night?
think he's seen it? I don't know.
I hope so.
But at some point we're gonna have to do. I think we should do a full-on spin-off podcast, Light the Pubes.
Yeah, we've got to do it. We should have done it for like April 1st this year or something. But
If anybody doesn't know, whenever we have someone who's worked on the movie Color of Night, the Bruce Willis movie, it was an erotic thriller from the 90s. Drew will absolutely ask questions of anyone who's worked on that movie.
I have to. And, I feel like sort of validated by Criterion choosing it for their
Yes.
erotic thriller.
It's on Criterion Channel right now.
Yeah. But I think, that people always say that they go over to Tom Cruise's house and they watch movies together. We will bring Color of Night and watch it with him at his house. That's the dream. That's the dream.
He'll be like, what are we doing here? Guys, what is this?
Correct.
But I think there are more questions in that Cruise questions document. So hopefully we'll get him back someday.
Yes.
That's
that
the
is
goal.
That is a true dream. What else, Charles? Anything else?
Well, I got to give a special thank you to Stan Hairstraight, to Thomas Victorio, to Winston Riggs, and to Matthew Costa. Thank you, Stan, Thomas, Winston, and Matthew for making this episode possible. And I want to give credit to our editor and mixer, Luke Burson, and to our music composer, Kevin Blumenfeld. Yeah, Kevin's always out there risking his legal status.
He's going to be deported.
Legally iffy music that's just a little too close to the Mission Impossible theme. So thank you, Kevin, for risking that for us.
I thought you were going to explain to me what Patreon was.
Oh, yeah. There's also this thing called a Patreon. It's like a way of supporting shows like ours. And so there's one specifically for Light the Fuse. It's patreon.com/lightthefuse. Drew, maybe you should sign up.
I'll sign up, sure.
Yeah, go to patreon.com/lightthefuse. You can sign up. There's different tiers, and you can sign up to support our show and pay a different amount of money per month to get more benefits. So, there's the most popular one is the bonus content level, which is Mission Commander. We named them all after the different various middle management bosses over the years that Ethan has dealt with, and our beloved Mission Commander Swanbeck gets that label. So the Mission Commander level gets you bonus episodes every week. We just did one recently about the news about Nicholas Hoult. He did an interview with The Guardian where he talked about why he couldn't do Mission Impossible 7, why he had to drop out. And so we talk about that.
Yeah, we also talked about the Continental trailer, which is the John Wick spinoff show, in that particular bonus episode. Anytime there's new Mission Impossible news, we will go there first and we will break it on down. So yeah, Charles, now that you talk about this Patreon, I'm really invested. I'm ready to sign up. And I also want to encourage people to go follow us on social media at Light the Fuse Pod on Instagram and Twitter. And remember to like, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening to this podcast. And we'll be back next week with that CinemaCon breakdown. So be sure to come back and we will give you all the goods.
Yeah, we will. So thank you all so much. Thanks again for listening, everyone. And before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod, and email us questions or comments at lightthefusepodcast@gmail.com. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.